At 2:14 a.m., 18 drones appeared on the Pantsir S-1 radar a kilometer east of the Armiansk bridge. 8 closing from the northwest, 10 from the north, all below 80 meters and converging at 110 kilometers per hour. The Russian crew was guarding the last intact crossing between Crimea and the southern front. Behind it, 50 supply trucks sat loaded with diesel and Grad rockets, and the drivers beside the fuel had no idea. 8 drones heading for the bridge, 10 heading for the fuel, 12 missiles, 90 seconds, and no way to cover both. This was the second strike of the night. The first had targeted the Chonhar bridge, the other crossing 70 kilometers east. The Chonhar bridge had carried fuel, ammunition, and personnel from Crimea into the occupied south for more than 2 years. The shorter crossing, the faster route, the artery around which Russia's logistics schedules were built. At 8:17 p.m., 14 Ukrainian drones came for it from 2 directions. 10 were Firepoint FP2 one-way attack drones, fixed-wing UAVs carrying structural high-explosive warheads fitted with delayed fuses, designed to punch through a surface before detonating inside. Behind them came 4 Behemoth heavy strike drones, each loaded with 40 kilograms of high-explosive fragmentation and 35 kilograms of thermobaric charge. All 14 crossed the steppe at 60 to 80 meters altitude, spread across 2 approach lines wide enough to force the defender's radar to split. The Russian Podlet K1 surveillance station, 12 kilometers southeast of the bridge, detected them first, a low-altitude radar set built to find what conventional search radar lost in ground clutter. It had no weapons. Its only function was to pass the picture to the systems that could kill, and within seconds, both the Pantsir S-1, a short-range air defense system, 1.5 kilometers east of the bridge, and the Tor M2 short-range missile system, 3 kilometers to the south, had 14 tracks on their screens. At 8:18 p.m., the Pantsir engaged first. Its fire control could guide 4 missiles simultaneously, 4 channels, 14 targets, 2 bearings. The crew assigned channels to the nearest threats and started killing. 2 FP2s and 2 Behemoths fell in rapid sequence before any of them crossed the 3-kilometer line. But 4 channels meant the 10 surviving drones flew unopposed for the duration of the reload cycle. By the time the Pantsir cleared its rails and reacquired, the fastest FP2s had already passed inside its engagement window. The Tor M2 picked up the remainder. It destroyed 2 FP2s within the first 8 seconds, both clean intercepts. But each engagement cycle consumed roughly 5 seconds of fire control time, and at 95 kilometers per hour, the surviving drones covered 130 meters in every cycle. 2 kills were not enough. The remaining column of drones was already thinning past the Tor's effective arc. 500 meters north of the bridge entrance, the first ZU-23-2 anti-aircraft gun, a twin-barrel 23mm cannon aimed by hand, caught an FP2 at 800 meters. The gunner tracked, led, and fired a burst that shredded its wing. 600 meters from the southern approach, the second ZU-23-2 killed another. Both crews began traversing for the next target, but there was nothing left in range. The 6 surviving drones, 4 FP2s, and 2 Behemoths were already inside 500 meters. 8 drones destroyed, more than half the attack. On any other night, against any other target, that would have been enough. But a bridge does not dodge, and it does not scatter. It sits where it was built and absorbs whatever reaches it. And 6 heavy drones carrying a combined 270 kilograms of explosive had just reached it. The Behemoth struck first, 2 detonations that tore open the deck and cratered the approach ramp. Then the FP2s did what they were built for. Their delayed fuses did not detonate on contact. Each warhead punched through the surface and fired inside the structural joint beneath. Blast into load-bearing steel, not open air. 4 hit the span at 4 different points. The connections cracked in sequence. The center reinforcement severed. The main span buckled under its own weight and dropped, pulled downward through the gaps the warheads had opened in the steel. By 8:22 p.m., the Chonhar Bridge had ceased to exist as a road. Within hours, every vehicle scheduled to cross at Chonhar was rerouted to Armiansk, 70 kilometers west, the last road-capable crossing left. Ukrainian operators had expected this. With Chonhar gone, there was only one road left. They watched the first trucks turn onto the highway and began counting. Fuel tankers rolled in from the depot south of Jankoy. Ammunition trucks came from inland storage. A Ural 4320 carrying 122mm Grad rockets joined the line. A Kamaz 5350 packed with FPV drones, lithium batteries, generators, and coils of fiber optic cable followed. The kind of truck that kept an entire sector's drone operations alive. Behind the front, 18 FP2 drones were being loaded onto their rails. 8 were assigned to the bridge, 10 to the convoy. The operators were not in a hurry. The longer they waited, the more Russia would pack onto one road. By 1:30 a.m., roughly 50 vehicles had stacked up on the two-lane road approaching the Armiansk bridge. The lead truck sat 100 meters from the entrance ramp. No one was moving. Behind them, vehicles kept arriving. Spacing shrank from 60 meters to 30, then less. Fuel tankers carrying 40,000 liters of diesel settled within 30 meters of ammunition carriers. The column stretched nearly a kilometer back from the bridge, and every minute it grew denser. Every tanker that pulled into line was another target that would not need its own drone. The Pantsir S1 was positioned to cover the bridge. The Tor M2 had halted 1.5 kilometers behind the convoy's center. A Zhitel electronic warfare vehicle sat 2.5 kilometers behind the tail. None of them were there because of the convoy. They were there because Chonhar's destruction had made Armiansk the next obvious target. The convoy happened to be parked in the middle of the defense zone when the defense zone became a kill zone. Ukraine had not chased 50 trucks across Crimea. It had destroyed one road and waited for the trucks to find the only road left. Chonhar had been the simpler problem. One bridge, one target, one direction. What was coming for Armiansk was 18 drones aimed at 2 targets in the same 90 seconds, and no answer that saved both. At 2:14 a.m., the 18 FP2s arrived. 8 carried structural warheads configured for the bridge, the same delayed fuse design that had killed Chonhar 6 hours earlier. 10 carried terminal control packages, operator-guided in the final approach, each pilot watching a live optical feed and capable of steering onto an individual vehicle. The 8 bridge drones appeared on the podlet screen first, 30 to 40 seconds ahead of the convoy group. The Pantsir S1 crew saw 8 tracks converging on the bridge from one bearing. They had 12 missiles on the rails and a clear firing solution. The convoy package had not yet appeared. For those 30 seconds, the Pantsir crew had one group of targets, one job, and enough missiles to do it. They opened fire. 3 FP2s dropped to missile intercepts within the first 12 seconds. The Tor M2, 1.5 kilometers behind the convoy center, killed one more bridge-bound drone that crossed into its sector. Then, at 2:14:35, 10 more drones appeared on the second bearing, the convoy package. 2.5 kilometers behind the tail of the column, the R-33OZH Zhitel electronic warfare vehicle had been broadcasting GPS interference since the first radar warning. It worked on one of the bridge drones. The FP2 drifted 40 meters off its programmed line and hit open ground. A kill the Zhitel's crew would never see, but a real one. 5 of the 8 bridge drones were now dead. The Zhitel's limitation was its weapon. It jammed satellite navigation signals. The 10 FP2s heading for the convoy were terminal control variants. In the final 2 kilometers, an operator took over through an optical camera feed, steering by sight. GPS spoofing shifted the navigation solution by 50 meters. A human eye watching a fuel tanker fill the screen corrected the last 50 meters in under a second. The Zytel was blind to the guidance it could not jam. By 2:14:50, the Pantsir had spent its priority and most of its ready missiles on the bridge. Against the 10-drone convoy package closing from the north, the crew managed one intercept, one missile, one kill. The system that had destroyed 3 drones in 12 seconds against the first group could now offer only a single engagement against the second, because its reload cycle had not finished and its radar was still tracking the bridge bearing. The Tor became the convoy's last guided weapon defense. It killed 2 FP2s, cycling as fast as its fire control could sequence targets. At the head of the column, the forward ZU-23-2 crew caught 1 drone at 600 meters, the gunner walking tracer fire onto a shape that crossed his field of view in under 4 seconds. Closer to the center of the convoy, the second ZU-23-2 killed another at 400 meters, firing across the gap between its position and the nearest tanker. The gunner, aware that a burst angled 10 degrees to the right, would have hit his own side's cargo. 5 of the 10 convoy drones were stopped. 5 were not. At 2:14:55, 3 bridge drones struck in sequence. Entry joint, center deck, exit connection. The center dropped. The entry cracked. The exit separated. No vehicle would cross. The road ahead of the convoy died in 3 detonations. The lead trucks 100 meters from the ramp had no road ahead. None could reverse. The column behind them was solid. The Tor crew had 9 seconds between the last bridge intercept and the first convoy drone entering terminal range. 9 seconds. The operator cycled to the northern bearing, locked the nearest inbound FP2, and fired. The missile tracked for 2.5 seconds before the FP2 dropped below 20 meters, the Tor's minimum engagement altitude, and the seeker lost it against the road. The interceptor passed 6 meters above and self-destructed behind it. The closest any Russian system came to a 6th kill, and it missed by the height of a truck. There would be no second attempt. The 5 convoy drones were already inside terminal range. At 2:15 a.m., they entered the column. The first operator steered onto a fuel tanker in the center of the convoy. On the terminal feed, the cylindrical profile filled the frame. 3 seconds of steady crosshair. Impact. Diesel ignited, a flame column climbing above the convoy, radiating 1,200 degrees into the vehicles on either side. The second FP2 hit another tanker 2 vehicles ahead. The tank split. Diesel flooded the asphalt, pooling toward a third tanker 30 meters downhill. 3 seconds passed. The diesel was still spreading. The third struck an ammunition truck loaded with 152mm shells. For 4 seconds, nothing. No fireball, no flash. Then the propellant caught. Secondary detonations tore the truck apart from inside, throwing burning fragments across the road. The fourth hit a Grad rocket carrier. The rockets burned progressively, each ignition spraying propellant across the highway. The fifth hit the drone support truck. Lithium batteries and generator fuel caught in a chemical fire that would outlast everything around it. 5 hits, 5 vehicles. The whole sequence had taken less than 30 seconds. The column was too tight for the fire to stop there. Heat from the burning tankers radiated at 1,200 degrees. 30 meters away, 2 more tankers ignited within 90 seconds. Never struck, just close enough to cook. Fragments from the detonating ammunition set off propellant in 2 more vehicles. The fire spread from chassis to chassis until the center of the column was a single wall of burning fuel and detonating ammunition. By 2:18 a.m., 5 hits had become 10 fires. The bridge ahead was gone. 10 vehicles burned in the center of the column, ammunition still cooking off in staggered detonations that kept any crew from approaching. The roughly 40 trucks that had not been hit stood intact on the highway, with no road forward, no fuel to burn, no ammunition to deliver, and no repair vehicle to fix what the night had broken. Russia's air defense across both attacks had intercepted 18 of 32 drones, 56%, more than half. The Pantsir crews had fired accurately. The Tor had cycled under pressure. The Zu-23-2 gunners had tracked and killed targets in the dark with manually aimed barrels. None of it was enough. The defense did not fail because it was weak. It failed because it was designed to protect one target at a time, and Ukraine gave it two in the same window, then made sure that the second target could not move. 32 drones destroyed 2 bridges and 10 vehicles carrying the fuel, shells, rockets, and drone equipment that an entire frontline sector depends on for a week. Every remaining crossing between Crimea and the southern front now sits inside the same 200-kilometer range envelope that reached Chonhar and Armiansk. The trucks will find another road. Ukraine only needs to know which one.